All right, Lori, take it away.
Okay, I'm Lori Fox from CIT and the CDL Center for Digital Learning. Thank you everyone for stopping by today for our micro workshop. I love this idea of small workshops that give you just a little bit of information to learn something new. Personal productivity, inbox zero, getting things done, all of those are hobbies of mine that help keep me going at work when things are super busy and stressful. And actually, you can see from my background, oh, this side, I actually teach a class in this of productivity tools. And today, what we're going to talk about is how to gain control of your email. And there's only a few of us. So, unfortunately for you all, this does mean that you have a heavy lift for any participation today. So, if we could start, just put in chat right now how many messages are in your inbox? Read, unread, any, like if you went and looked at your inbox, how many messages are in your inbox? Oh, Amanda. Amanda has 5,000. Ouch. Okay. Dr. Schacht? More than Amanda. Okay. I have 14. And actually, I have purposely left stuff in my inbox for the presentation because otherwise it would not be a very interesting presentation. So I'm going to give you some tips for managing your inbox. Just before we started, before the recording, Paul said, "My whole life is in my email." And I said, "That's great, but it doesn't have to be in your inbox." So I'm not an advocate for deleting everything out of your email. We just want to get control of that inbox so that, Margaret, you don't start to worry what's going on between 600 and 800. Is there something that you missed? Maybe some great opportunity that you missed. So we're going to convert our email and our inbox messages into actions. And you don't get much junk mail. You probably don't get much postal mail at all today. But one of the things before email that I remember reading was when you have a piece of paper or you get mail in your inbox, if it is garbage, you should read your mail over the recycling can, right? Get rid of things immediately. I think that you should take the time to do that in your email. Now, if you're like me, how many of you, raise your hands, is the first time you read an email message typically on your cell phone? Oh, yeah, me too. Always. I'm scrolling through that constantly, and I constantly am getting that red dot. And your cell phone is not great for managing your inbox, right? It's usually just where you're going to read things quickly and move on. So, what I do is I set aside time every day to go to your inbox and see what's there. And I love alliteration. Do, delegate, defer, delete. We're going to look at each of these four things. And if you practice them faithfully, we'll get let's go to under 100. I mean, that could be a goal for you, right? We don't need to be at zero every day. So, the first thing I want to talk about is just do it. If it is an email where it asks for a quick question or you need to add something to your calendar, that should only take you about 30 seconds or a minute. Just do it. Do it. Then once you've done it, you can move on to the next email. So we're going to set aside time every day, which could be at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, whatever works for you. And if that task or reply takes less than 3 minutes, we're going to do it. Now, Margaret, for you, I'm going to pick on you because you have the biggest number here. It's going to take you some time to get through those messages. It doesn't all have to be done right away. But you can label or archive your messages as soon as they're done, and then they're out of your inbox. And I'm going to show you how I go through my inbox at the end of the day. So we're going to use some Google tools. Most people, I mean, everybody at Geneseo uses Google for their school email. I guess your personal email probably is Google too. Mine is too. So we're going to talk about labels and filters. And then I'm going to show you real quick how you can change your notifications in Canvas so you get fewer messages from Canvas. So I'm going to stop my presentation. excuse me, and we're going to switch to my email. Now, this is my live email. And you can see, oh, I just got another one. You can see that I have 15 messages in my inbox. This is about all I can handle stress-wise. Anything over 20 and I start to panic that I'm missing some things. But right away, I can see as I'm scanning through the email that there are some messages that I don't need. So if you go into your settings, I clicked on the gear and we're going to go to all settings. And I'm going to give you 2 quick recommendations. The first one is keyboard shortcuts. Now, Paul, I bet you use keyboard shortcuts a lot.
All the time.
All the time. If you're on your laptop, you can use keyboard shortcuts to quickly go through your email. The ones that I use all the time are delete, which is a £, and archive, which is for me the letter V, and it brings up a menu to where I can move them. There it is. Open up the move to menu, this one here. So that lets me quickly move them into another menu. Then you also can look at your labels here. I have had this email account for over 25 years. I have a ridiculous amount of labels. I think I have way too many because really you can search in Gmail for just about anything, and I'll show you how to do that. But you'll see that I have some labels that have one thing in it. I probably don't really need a label for that. So when I'm in my inbox, I usually read the oldest thing first. And you can see this is a reminder of our meeting today. We don't need that. I could pretty quickly delete that. The next thing, this is something that I know that I have to do. I have to change this conference survey. This is something that I'm either going to put on my calendar to do it later, or I'm going to add it to my to-do list. And then I can file this because, and can you see that I'm moving it to a label? I popped up V, I typed 2021, it's gone. This person I need to reply. I'm not going to bore you with my reply of that, but that's something that I can do in just a few minutes. And also, you could select things that you know are things that can be deleted, which it looks like, oh, no, I can delete that one. That's just something. And then you can delete those quickly. The other thing that you could do here is while you're in the inbox, you could search for, let's say I have all these Slack notifications. And I know that I can delete them all. So in the search menu, I could search for Slack and get rid of them. So you know all of those all staff messages from last year that you probably don't need anymore, you could search for all of those and delete those. Now, the other thing that you can do, I'm just gonna, oh, I lost my mouse, okay, is you can create filters. Oops. So I'm going to go back to my inbox again. And here's a good example of, this is an email that I get from a mailing list, and I know I want to keep all of these messages. So if you click on more in the upper right, there's a menu item that says filter messages like these. And you can choose what feature you use. Now, maybe this is something, everything from this company, I know that I can just file it in a folder and I'll look at it if I need it, right? So we want to get everything that is from members.eab.com. and I can search for these items and it will bring them up here in my inbox. Whoops. So you can see what you're looking at. And then I clicked on the down arrow and I'm going to click create filter. And this is where you can pick some things to happen to this. So for example, I want to skip the inbox. I never want to see this in my inbox. And I want to apply the label. Remember, I have a ridiculous amount of labels. Oops. I want to apply the label for this product, which I might not be able to find because I have too many. I'm just going to pick a random label. I'll get it later. Okay. But you can, or you can mark it as important. Paul, I think this is what you probably have done with your messages that are flagged, like maybe things that come from me, you mark as important, right? Now you've got all these flags. So when I create a filter, it created that filter, and now everything from that address goes into a filter. Now let's go to Canvas. Okay, so under your account menu in Canvas, there is a notifications setting. And this isn't directly related to your inbox, but it can help with some things. Okay. For each of these different topics, you can choose when you get an email from Canvas. This applies to all of your classes. So you would do it all the same way. So for example, if your professor changes a due date, have you seen these notifications from Canvas? Some days it feels like you just get oodles of messages. You can click on the little icon and change when you get notified. So if, for example, you have it set to notify immediately, for your 4 professors, if they change 6 assignments each, you're getting 24 notifications today. But if you change it to a daily summary, that means you're only going to get 1 notification at the end of the day today, and it will show everything that changed. So this is a great way to slow down the amount of messages coming from Canvas. Now, there are a few things that I would keep on immediately, like announcements. That's the announcement that your professor sends that they're going to change something about your course. So I would leave that on notify immediately. Some of the things you see on here about submissions, those are for faculty. So Paul and Amanda, that might apply to you someday in the future. If you are teaching a class of 45 students and you're starting to get 45 notifications, you can roll those all up into one announcement at the end of the day. Conversations are the messages that professors send you through Canvas. Those we typically leave on all the time. But some of these course activities are the ones that I would recommend that you slow down the influx to maybe just once a day. I'm going to go back to my presentation. And let's talk about Delegate. Now, I have bad news for you. At this point in your academic careers, you don't have many things that you can delegate to other people. Fortunately, that will change. And Amanda and I spent some time earlier this week brainstorming some things that you might be delegating. These are things where you're going to be asking somebody else for help. And that really would fall under the do, right? If you, Abby, if you got a message and you realized that you really needed to work with Emma on it, as soon as you forward that message to Emma and say, Emma, can you help me? You archive the original message and it's gone. Emma will get back in touch with you. Or maybe you're involved in group work or student organizations where you can pass this along. As a supervisor, Delegate is one of my favorite things. If I can get somebody else to help me with the project, that keeps it moving even when I'm busy. So let's talk about defer. I would imagine, especially for those of you with not too much in your inbox, that a lot of things in your inbox are things that you need to do later. And even when your numbers grow to 40, 50, 80, suddenly you're looking through a list of 80 things that is not very well organized to see what you have to do next. So I use defer to move things to my to-do list, which I may, like I keep a to-do list, what I'm doing today, what I'm doing this week, what I'm doing next week. So you can move it out, or you can use your calendar to block things off on your calendar. And I use my calendar for everything. So every message that I get information about that is in the future, I add to my calendar. And the way I keep track of what needs to be done is I look at my calendar every day. So I'm going to switch to calendar view. I'm going to take off a couple calendars that I was viewing so you can just see my calendar. And let's look at my calendar for next week. Okay, not looking too good. So let's say that I got an email from Amanda and she said, Lori, next week, I need to have information from you about our next micro workshop. She sent me an email about it. And I know that she wants it pretty early in the week. So it's the sort of thing that I will add a calendar event. I put it on there. Then I can write back to Amanda and say, okay, I'll get that to you on Monday. I archive her message. It's out of my inbox, but I know that I'm not going to forget to do it because it's on my calendar. I also will use events. So,
Lori, were you
I'm
meaning
thinking,
to share your screen for this part?
oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No worries.
I stopped sharing, but forgot to share again. Okay. So I'm taking an accounting grad class, and I know that I have an accounting project due on Tuesday. So I will put that also on my calendar so that as you look ahead, you can start to see what's going on and what you really have time for. So again, I'm not using my inbox to keep track of things for me. And if I go back to my inbox and okay. So here is an example of Andrea invited me to a meeting. When I get invited to a meeting in Google, it automatically adds it. But from my inbox, I can accept her meeting and then I can delete the message. Once I take care of it, I delete it immediately. Okay, so that's how I do, that's how I do defer. I'm gonna go back. We have one thing left, and that is delete. Google has two ways to get messages out of your inbox. The first is a true delete. It moves your messages to the trash, and then after 30 days, it's permanently erased. Archive removes the message from view from your inbox, but it keeps it forever. It just is not in your inbox. And you can use labels to make it easier to find in the future. But you also, I have colleagues, this makes me a little nervous. I have colleagues who just archive it and they know it's there and they know they can search for it. So with our last few minutes, I want to show you some search tricks because I think that searching in Gmail can be frustrating. So I have 3 examples that I'm going to show you. The first one is searching for messages from one person. That's pretty straightforward. But you can search for emails related to a specific class, and you can search for email that's at a specific date. So we're going to do those real quick. And I'm going to remember to share my screen again. Now, all mail is at the bottom of your label list. So I'm actually going to go here and open all mail. And that is going to show you 111,000 messages. And the search is pretty quick for it looking in 111,000 messages. So I'm going to look for all of my email from Amanda first. And when I start to type her name, it brings up some auto-completes. So here are all of my messages from Amanda. We have a lot of meetings together, Amanda. Okay, so that's the first search. So you can just type a person's name and it will show all of your messages from that person. The second search is, let's say you want to search for all the messages you received for a particular class. And if I go up to my labels and I have all of my messages from my class, here's an example of a message that you get from a professor. And you'll see that up here in the subject line is this funky looking code. Every email from my INTD 188 class is going to have that code. So if I search for that in the search bar, it will show all of the messages from that class. You also could search for all of the messages that come from Canvas by grabbing that email address, because every message from Canvas comes from notifications@instructure.com. And that will show all of your Canvas notifications. Underneath where your search bar is, you'll see too that you can pick specific ranges. So you could pick things just from this semester. And that shows just the 8 messages from this semester. Wow, that's not very many. And you also can search that way in your your Gmail search. So you could search for all of your email that arrived after, now I can't remember, okay, after a certain date. So this is all of the email that I received in April. So, and that's delete and archive. Now, does anyone have any questions or thoughts? Have you been working in your inbox? Did you change your numbers? Did you, Abby? Good. Emma, is there anything that you wanted to share or add?
Not particularly, but I myself learned a lot just from this class, and I definitely will be using filters and labels more often than I do, because I really don't use those things right now in my email, but I think it would make a big difference for me too.
It really helps. And I think setting aside time away from your phone and doing it on your laptop, that helps too.
Absolutely.
Now, I have a question.
Okay.
I noticed, Lori, in the way that your Gmail inbox is set up, you have these nifty little labels up at the top, and mine doesn't have that. Is there a setting that I can check, or are there settings that you recommend we have checked in Gmail to make it look more efficient and user-friendly?
So it's a really good question. Gmail does have a lot of settings. Where were you? Did you see them when I was doing the search?
I mean, even on this page, you have a refresh option there. You have a more option.
Okay.
I don't have those.
So I clicked on the settings, and there are different ways that you can view Gmail.
Mhm.
And I also, so I'm using comfortable. I have no split because I don't like the list um, with the message over to the right.
Mhm.
But then there are other settings. Gmail hides settings in some different areas. In the inbox, I enabled the reading pane. That might be something that changed it. Um, I removed all of my importance markers. Paul, there's a shortcut for you.
Yes.
Instead of fixing your filters, you could just remove.
Get rid of it.
Remove. There are also add-ons that you can add, and then there are some advanced things that I've enabled. I usually enable just about everything advanced to see how it looks. So it might be one of those, Amanda. There
Yeah.
are quite a few settings.
There are many settings, and I'm already seeing some discrepancies in mine and yours. So that's
Okay,
really
good.
helpful.
Good.
Lori, one of my favorite things, you were talking about keyboard shortcuts earlier.
Hmm.
So sort of corresponding to that, a little bit different from a keyboard shortcut, but some prefixes, if you can remember them when you're searching, I find really helpful in the search bar. So you could type to :
Yes.
from :
Mhm.
rather than using the drop downs. Sometimes it's hard to remember those things, and then you can type before : and put in a date, and then after : so you can narrow the date range all by typing the right parameters into the search bar without doing the drop downs.
Yes.
One comment I wanted to make is that you made the great point about opening up junk postal mail over the recycling bin,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's a great analogy. And the other related analogy that I find it helpful to keep in mind is the false belief that you shouldn't put things away because if you do, you'll forget that you need to do something with them, right? So the temptation is enormous as paper mail comes in and other stuff, clutter gathers in your house, that, oh, I better not put that away. If I do, it'll be out of sight, out of mind, and I'll forget to deal with it. And I think you have the same temptation with the inbox. I better leave it there. I better leave it marked unread because otherwise I will forget to deal with it. And before long, you just have a mountain of unread emails, some of which you've actually read.
Right.
Just like you're surrounded with clutter in your house. And so the idea that you're going to remember to do stuff because it's in front of you is completely blown away by how much stuff is in front of you.
Sure.
You're better off putting stuff away and deleting and archiving email.
It's true. And I think that really is the second part of our second micro workshop, isn't it? A to-do list.
Yeah.
Keeping track of things. So I know, Margaret, that you're a senior, so this isn't too much help to you, but there is a YouTube video of my whole presentation of time management strategies that you might find helps. One of the things that is my goal is that I help you professionally and personally. So maybe you'll find some things in there that help you as you go on to big, wonderful things. I did also want to put in a plug that the Digital Fluency Productivity Tools class will be offered in the spring, and I'm happy to chat anytime.
Thank you, Lori. This was wonderful.